today we're going to be stamping on our layouts. I have a number of ideas to show you and different stamps, and I'm also going to scrapbook this photograph. It's scanned from a photograph taken in 1910, and we will do that after I show you a few ideas. So if you're like me, you have a lot of different stamps in your collection and you'd like to use them more. So I'm going to share some ideas that are simple and quick and fun. The first is a masking technique, and you could do this to create embellishments, or you could use it to create borders for your pages. What you need is just a Post-it note, and you're going to stamp the image that you want to repeat onto the Post-it note, and you want to make it so that the sticky part of the Post-it note is on quite a bit of the image. Then what you do is just cut that out, fussy cut it out. And that part will stick over and over again. What you can do then is stamp your image, then cover it with that mask, and you can stamp again, and it creates a layered effect without overlapping your stamped images. Looks very realistic, like those ornaments are actually stacked up. And just repeat this process. Then what you can do is get out your colored pencils or your markers and just color away. I'm using some Stampin' Up! Watercolor pencils. You can use them with or without a water brush. After I spend some time coloring in, I do go back in with a water brush, just a brush with plain water to kind of blend the colors, and I'll show you how this completed border turns out. I added some stickles and I'm pleased with the creation. I think this will be great on a page. Feels great to use this stamp. It's been in my stash a long time. Here's another border idea. You can combine stamps. They don't even have to be from the same stamp set. This is a pine sprig stamp from the year 2000 by Penny Black, and this is a border stamp from Stampin' Up! It's really meant probably more for card making, but it has some cute ornaments, and I'm going to combine these two to create a beautiful border. First, I'm going to randomly stamp the pine boughs. And I don't need this whole image. I can just use part of the image to make it look like there's a pine tree. And then I'm going to go in with the ornaments and make them look like they're hanging from that pine bough. Again, going off the page a little bit. And I can repeat this. Makes a unique and interesting border for my page, I'll layer it on this red. I'm going to go in and color these. Here's a look at the completed border. I use those same watercolor pencils. And for the pine bough stamp, I used Distress Oxide Evergreen Bough. And for the ornaments, I used an archival ink, Ranger Archival Jet Black ink. Now let's talk about ideas for your scrapbook page backgrounds. Another idea for your backgrounds is repeated patterns. These make easy, you can turn plain white cardstock into a pretty pattern paper that is unique just by repeating the patterns randomly. If you select ink that complements your other papers, for example, I plan to use this paper, then you've got a nice and coordinated background. And don't worry about your images being perfect. This is just for your background, and it doesn't have to be exactly perfect. Letter stamps are a great investment. I would recommend getting a versatile font that can work for many themes and styles. I want to stamp the page title for this photo. What's happening is, this is my Aunt Rose when she was probably about 7 years old. She was given this rocker as a gift. It was her rocker, but her brother Wayne sat in it and she just had a fit and fell in it. So I want to do a page to tell the story behind this photo. I don't want it to get the story to get lost. So I'm going to build a page and then leave room for my mom to journal this background story and what she knows about this photo. For the page title, I'm going to make the page title say Rose's Rocker. So I'm going to use the same Distress Oxide that I used to create some of the background. And one thing that's hard about stamping titles is making sure that the letters are straight. I'm not often very particular about things being exactly straight, but in the case of a title, I don't want the title of this page to distract from the photo. So I've found a pattern paper that has a gingham on it, and I can use that gingham to line up my words in the title. I won't show you all the stamping. I'll just do a few of the letters and then do some of it off camera, but I wanted to show you enough to get you a feel for how I do this. There are many techniques. This is just what I do, and hope you enjoy seeing a little bit behind the scenes how I do this. When working with your letter stamps, don't be afraid to mix your fonts. I didn't want Rose's Rocker to be so huge on this page that that's all you'd see, so I'm going to leave Rose's big and then use this smaller stamp to spell the word rocker. With the page title now completed, I'm going to turn myself to the rest of the layout. First, the background. Here is the white cardstock that I added that image to the background, and I'm going to use this blue. I'm just going to rip the blue. This is an older photo. The kids are playing outside, so it can be a little bit ragtag. I'm trying to use colors that might have been in the photo if this were an actual color photo. Of course, it's from 1910, so it is black and white, but I want the colors I use to complement the subject. I have this pretty craft pattern paper that I want to mount the layout on. I want it to kind of be framed on that craft paper. So I'm going to trim this background piece a bit so that it fits on top of the craft paper. The kids are playing out on the farm, so there is a field behind them, and I think this craft paper will kind of give an effect of the types of earthy colors that they were probably surrounded by. Next, I'll trim out the stamped page title as well as a journaling spot from this same yellow gingham paper. I will throw everything that's left over into my scrap bin, and you may see this yellow gingham on some cards or more scrapbook layouts. I don't like to waste a nice, pretty scrap like that. In our family, we think this photo is hilarious because it shows the dynamic between the brother and sister, and it seems unusual to have such a candid photo from 1910. Feels like most people posed for photos at that time. Just photography was not as readily available, and so this feels like a precious capture of a moment back in the early 1900s. Because it is a heritage type photo, black and white, I used some ink around the edges of the paper and the title block and the journaling block. This was a Tim Holtz Distress ink called Antique Linen. It's quite subtle, but up close I do feel this was an important step to take for this vintage-looking layout. I love photo corners, as you may know. I have these photo corners that are self-adhesive. They've been in my stash. Don't remember where they came from. I'm going to use some of them on this layout, and there's a square that I don't think is meant to be used, but I go ahead and use that as accents on the page. As I looked at this page, I realized there was some empty space, and so I got my bin of paper flowers out. I'm going to add these paper flowers, and here is my embellishment box. I'm trying to use this up, and there are a bunch of dewdrops in there. I'm going to use those dewdrops with the paper flowers to embellish the centers of those flowers. I tried to select flowers that were with natural colors that wouldn't distract too much from the vintage black and white photo, and I'm pleased with how this is coming together. I can't wait for my mom to add the journaling to the journaling spot here. Next, you'll see me get out a different glue. I'm using glossy accents to adhere those dewdrops to the center of each of the flowers. This is a clear product. It'll dry clear, and I can use my tweezers now to place those dewdrops at the center of the flowers. Let me know in the comments if you're using your stamps on your borders and scrapbook layouts. If you are, I'd love to hear your ideas. I'm always looking for ways to use the stamps in my stash on my pages. I want to show you the completed page as well as pictures of the borders. And let's keep scrapping our stash together. I will link to another video here where I'm stamping with Vicki Boutin art crayons. Keep stamping and scrapping, everybody.